Hey guys, welcome to a very quick video that I've been willing to do for such a long time because I've been waiting for Dark Souls 2 for a very long time, and I finally, after what was a very arduous process, I finally have it right here in my hands. It's the Black Armor edition and it's all funky. You can like slide the text around. I don't know if I can make it so that there's no reflection on it. But I'm really excited. I was super excited to finally get this. Getting it was a big pain in the ass because I pre-ordered it, which should be the easiest way of getting a game, right? You basically pay in advance, or somewhat. You at least promise to pay or something like that. And they should do everything possible so that you get it on time, right? But I didn't. They shipped it a day late. Then the delivery dude like fucking stopped his route for whatever reason. He better have a good reason for that. And then I got it like 3 days late. But now I'm finally playing it, and I guess now I'm here to talk about my first few impressions on Dark Souls 2. This is all based on 6 hours roughly, maybe 6.5 or something like that. By now I've killed 3 bosses. I'm not gonna really talk about anything specific during this, by the way, just because I want to keep it spoiler free as much as possible, because if I was the person watching this, I wouldn't want to hear about little intricacies and stuff like that just yet, details and names. I'm very much a person that does not want anything spoiled, so what you're gonna get is something that is mostly spoiler free. There might be a few things that I say that actually then tell you too much. And also I'm going to be showing gameplay from this point on. But that's just from taken from the first 2 hours of the game. So nothing too much for me to spoil. It's just there, I guess. If you don't want to watch it, you may still listen to this and just not watch the video or something like that. So here we go. First impressions of Dark Souls 2. Let's jump into this. So I started playing the game and it immediately felt very awkward to me. I didn't like the way the camera moved. It's much more of a slidey thing now. It's not this weird, or it's not this standard camera thing, right? Because in Dark Souls what you have is a very basic camera that you can just easily, freely adjust. This, for whatever reason though, I don't know if it's actually like this, by the way, but this feels like it has more of a sway to the side when you move it. And that really put me off in the first half an hour to an hour of the game, and was definitely something that made me like cringe a little, like what, I don't know if I like this. And in general, the first half hour of the game most certainly felt very strange to me. I felt very weird playing it. It all felt very strange, like strangely different, while it was still the same. And now that I'm actually much farther into the game, now that I've played about 6 hours, I'm actually really liking that it is different, but the same. Because I mean, if you had asked me like a few months ago, what do you want? What do you wish Dark Souls 2 to be? I would have said basically Dark Souls 1 with more maps, right? And that is essentially what this is. There's more world for you to explore with the overall mechanics of a Dark Souls. But what I didn't expect to enjoy so much is the different feel to it, because it does definitely differ from Dark Souls 1. It feels very, like, it feels heavier. For example, the combat is much more challenging because you're just not as quick. It's not as digital as maybe Dark Souls 1 was, where a roll is a roll and you're invincible during that roll for the most part. And an attack is a fairly quick attack, and a block is, it's right there. The shield is up. And here it's less of that. There's more animation in between, and you much more have to pay attention to when you're going to execute something, when you're going to hold your shield up, when you're going to maybe roll away from an attack, which, by the way, is much more difficult now. But yeah, that makes encounters much more interesting. I mean, it's, I think, exactly what people that have invested a lot of time into Dark Souls 1 need, because I guess if they had just changed up the enemies, and there's not too much you can do, I guess they can have different patterns, but then again, it's just the timing of the spacing in between attacks and maybe range of those attacks that can then change. But having this weird change to the combat system is something I really enjoy, because it gives the whole thing a different feel, and it makes it tough even for me. I mean, I guess in general Dark Souls is supposed to be tough, but it makes it feel fresh and different, and that's a really good thing. I really enjoy that it doesn't exactly feel like Dark Souls 2, and on top of that has new areas to explore. And let's maybe talk about that for a little while. New areas, what I think of them, what I think of the art design, and how I have enjoyed the areas so far. And pretty much that goes along the same thought that I was mentioning earlier, being weirded out in the first bit, right? Because the first area that you go to, and I guess I'm going to name it right now, the Forest of the Fallen Giants is I think what it's called. That area, to me, that didn't quite do it for me, right? I mean, I was overall enjoying the gameplay throughout it, of course, and I was enjoying how different it always gets. You're outside, inside, underground, different enemies, stuff like that. I was really enjoying that aspect of it, but it didn't seem like it was all that flashed out. There's some really fucking hideous areas in the Forest of the Fallen Giants. At some points you can just look off into the distance, some foresty areas. Fucking PlayStation 2 graphics, if not worse. There's some really bad texture work there, and that is something that really, once again, added to this whole thing. This me finding the game weird and maybe not necessarily enjoying it in the first half an hour. But then you get to new areas, and those are exactly what I want to see. I just very, very recently got through a new area, beating the third boss, and that area was, I guess, reminiscent of something like the lower. It's not even lower. What is it even? The New Londo Ruins, for example. And if you've been there in Dark Souls 2, the area that I'm not going to name, you probably know what I'm talking about. And that area I super incredibly enjoyed. That felt like they were really doing something fresh and something that I've been willing to see in this game exactly. It's actually the kind of setting that I wanted to see from Dark Souls 2, so I'm really happy with that area. And also the areas leading up to it, broken down ruinsy area that you go through in order to get to said New Londo area. That is something I really enjoyed. I mean, that was beautiful. I really loved looking at all of that, but not so much the Forest of the Fallen Giants. That totally did not even get close to what I wanted to see from the game, because it also didn't really tell me anything about the engine. It didn't show me why this is now such a better engine compared to Dark Souls 1. And the other areas that I was just basically fucking working my way around in terms of description, much better. They sold me. They absolutely sold me on the new engine. The lighting is fantastic in areas. Now, when you actually light a bonfire, it fucking lights the whole thing up, and it casts a big shadow of you on the wall, and it's all dynamic and stuff like that. And there's also another instance where I was able to light a big fire, and that lit up the entire area. And that was an amazing moment, because it actually, as I was saying earlier, it sold me on the engine, and I hope to see more of that, less of the Forest of the Giants. In terms of difficulty, and that's maybe the last thing I'm going to talk about during this little first impressions video. Again, I'm only 6 hours into the game, so I guess there's much more for me to explore and at a later point talk about, but for now, these are my initial thoughts. Difficulty, it's tough. It's really tough, and it's so funny too because I guess difficulty in Dark Souls is not only how difficult the combat is, for example. Difficulty in Dark Souls is also connected to the way things are set up and how you're introduced to things. For example, I completely, for the first 4 hours of the game, I missed the Estus flasks. I didn't pick them up. I didn't have them. I beat the first boss and more. Not the second boss, though. Without the Estus flasks, just running on life gems, which are like the new secondary healing item that you also get. And that just once again showed me this game is so cool because you can do all that stuff. You can miss it. I easily could have just missed that whole thing for the first fucking 10 hours of the game and then just stumbled upon where you get the Estus flasks, which is a rather obvious location, but I just missed it. I don't know. Let me know whether you did that or not. But that was a very interesting experience for me because I ventured into areas that were very tough that I still haven't made it through without any Estus whatsoever. And of course that significantly increased the difficulty, I'd say. And that most certainly added to my experience in terms of the difficulty. I found it to be very difficult. Although it's not difficult in a way where you get frustrated easily. I have yet to experience a very frustrating moment. I'm always very encouraged by dying. Like, I'm always like, damn it, really? Just, I guess I could have done that much, much better. And then you go back and you actually are most certainly going to do better. At least that's how it's been for me. I've always done better and then found this new, I don't know, hope, I guess. And done the rest of the area then as well. And I guess that's all probably because of the level design, because it's excellent. It makes a lot of fun. There's rewarding shortcuts, less so than in Dark Souls, I'd almost say. At least that's what it feels like to me right now. But in general, a very rewarding system that is not easier by any stretch, not at all. Oftentimes more difficult, especially if you miss out on the Estus flask. And even if you pick those up, by the way, it's not as easy as it is in Dark Souls because of just longer animations and much more that I'm maybe not gonna talk about just yet, because I don't want to spoil things and I want to keep the surprise for you guys. But I don't know, I'm really digging it. So far, 6 hours into the game, I'm super intrigued. It's exactly what I've basically been looking for, and maybe even a little bit more than that. As I was saying earlier, it feels different, which is something I didn't quite expect, but something that I really enjoyed. And of course, I'm gonna make a series. I'm gonna, of course, do a little playthrough of Dark Souls once I feel like I'm familiar with the game. That might take me one playthrough, it might take me 2 playthroughs, but yeah, as soon as possible, I'm gonna start a playthrough on this fucker. I think we're gonna have a great time with this game. Of course, Dark Souls 1 was a big game for my channel, so Dark Souls 2 will hopefully be exactly that and maybe even more. So yeah, let me know what you think of Dark Souls 2 down in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my first impressions of it. Let me know what you think, as I was saying like fucking 10 seconds ago. I don't know. And here it is again. I like this edition very much. It's a steelbook. I like it. And that's all we're gonna talk about today. So as I said, let me know what you think of Dark Souls 2 so far. I know you guys are probably much farther into the game, because you probably got it earlier than me because I was screwed over a bunch of times. But now I have it, and I'm probably gonna go play some more in just a matter of minutes here. Probably after editing this video, of course, then. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon with more content, and then very, very soon it's gonna be time for Dark Souls 2 here on my channel, which I'm really excited for. So see you then, guys. Goodbye.